Recipe for a revolution. Preheat oven to 451 degrees. Take one big red heart. Char and singe until black.
Hey there, slug slingers, it's Ian from Iron Fox Typewriter, and today I'm here to pitch you a little bit of a nightmare scenario, but if you hang in there towards the end, we're going to find a really great resolution. So imagine this. You are cruising the internet. Shop Goodwill, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, pick your poison. And while you're doing that, you happen to spot your Grail typewriter. Just the perfect machine, right? You've always dreamed about owning it, and no one else has bid on it, and it's almost up on its time, and guess what? You go ahead, you log that bid, and it's yours. Elation! Now you've got this machine that you've always really wanted. But here's the catch. Now you've got to hope, without making a blood sacrifice to the typewriter gods, that that seller is going to package it correctly and pass it off to a trusted third-party courier who's going to go ahead and make sure that it doesn't get bounced a few times before it reaches you. I know, I've been there, I've lost a few, it sucks. However, I've learned a few things in my time in this business with regard to being able to appropriately package a typewriter to make sure that when it leaves you, it arrives at its destination in the same exact shape it left. So, hang in there, check out this video, and hopefully you too will be able to know exactly what to ask of your seller.
Okay, so first what I'd like to do is I will go to the website that I use, which is Packaging Price. There are lots of websites that do sell these types of boxes, but I just prefer to use this website. I think that they're well reasonably priced and they are reliable. So I'll click on 16 squared, that's 16 by 16 by 16, multi-depth boxes. Now this is the part that's important. With other boxes, you'll find that you'll have to custom cut them. These ones you don't. If you look at the corner of the box here, you'll see that they're ribbed in intervals of 1 inch. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to take your knife or your sharp object, you're going to slit right down the side of each corner to your desired height. Naturally, if you go all the way down to the bottom, that gives you 9 inches worth of height, and then continuing on up to 16. Cut it according to what you need.
So moving on, what I'll do from there is I'll go ahead and flip the box over and get the taping started. I generally start with the first 2 flaps. I'll go ahead and I'll throw a retaining strap in there because I'm going to build a nice heavy floor. So I want sort of a base layer of tape that's going to hold that floor. Okay? So now I'm going to turn it, and I always try and put the dimensions always facing on the outside. This way, if you go to UPS, USPS, or FedEx, whoever you use, whatever courier you use, they're going to, they're going to ask you one of those questions, weight, dimension, that sort of thing, rather than have them break out the ruler and try and maybe, fudge you for a little bit of money. You've got the dimensions there. So, before I start doing my major structural taping, I'm going to put one more belly strap on there. Okay. And then one down the center. And then one on either side of that. Sometimes, depending on the weight of the machine, I'll do one here and then one there. But generally, once you've done that inner strap first, and then the secondary strap going the opposite direction, and again, if you're using quality tape, you should be okay. So what we're going to do next is we're going to flip this guy over. Okay. Let's go ahead and bend these guys out. Now, depending on what you've got, a knife, what have you, I already know that this particular box is going to go down to the 9-inch level. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut it straight down to this last rib line on all 4 sides. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now ideally you're working with a whole lot more room and space than I am here in the box den, but we do with what we got. So you can go ahead and start turning out those sides down to the last rib. Now once you've done that, you'll find that it's going to be helpful if you go ahead, okay, cut off that top flap, okay, bend it backwards and forwards just a little bit so that you've got a better defined ridge to cut along. Okay. And your final one. Done and done. Don't fully discard those pieces yet, because when we come to the end, you're going to end up using about half of those. All right. So now we're going to move on to the next step. Okay, so you got your flaps cut and you got everything sized down the way you want it. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add that styrofoam floor. So as you'll see, here are the styrofoam bits that I get from Home Depot. All right. Obviously, it's going to leave a gap on either side here. That's okay. We're not worried about that. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we're getting it nice and tight from this side to this side. So generally what I do is I go ahead and I take the bottom lip of that and I push it up against your outer edge here. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut down styrofoam. I apologize for those of you who are sensitive to that noise. Maybe I should have put a trigger warning in there. I don't know. But, you know, going forward, you've been forewarned. Now, what I'm going to do is on those two short sides, the sides that don't meet on the opposite ends of the box, I'm just going to trim off a tiny bit. Okay. We just don't discard that. We're going to use that again later, too. Okay. So, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to fit our floor in. Okay, perfect. All right, so we've got our floor trimmed, it's in. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and you're going to take this lengthwise, okay, and you're going to measure from this side of the box where you're resting here to the opposite end. Normally what I do is I just make a little score mark here to follow. All right, let's ride it up. Perfect. Now, obviously, not everything needs to be perfect, right? That perfection's going to come when we fine-tune on the inside of the box, around the actual typewriter in the case. But for this, you're not building a house, remember. You don't need to be a stickler. You just need to make sure that everything fits and is tight, okay? Because if it's not tight and everything isn't perfectly cushioned, you're allowing that typewriter to start moving around. And the more it moves around, you know, the more likely you are to get some damage to it. So, all right, so we've got this in. Now, basically, what you're gonna do is, I'll turn this box around to show you before I actually do it, okay? Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold the very top here. I'm gonna run that knife's edge along here, and then I'm going to bend it and then snap it off. Hopefully, if you do it right, you should get nice clean edges like that. Don't throw this away, you're going to need it later. Okay, so we're going to flip this box and we're going to do the same damn thing on the other side. Now hopefully your leftover part ought to fit nicely. There we go, nice and snug, right in there, okay? You're gonna do the same thing. Try and make that a little neater. Perfect. Okay, so now you got that, right? Let's flip over. Okay, now you're going to choose one side of the box that's going to be for the back of the machine, the case, and one that's going to be for the front. At this time, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to fit the back panel. Okay, so same thing. You're going to kind of eyeball it. Oop. Start from here. Run it down. Less is more. You can always take away. You can't add to, right? So try and go on the conservative side as you're making your cuts for the styrofoam, because if you get too deep, then you got to pull a whole other piece of styrofoam, and you're trying to conserve. You're trying to do the best with what you got, right? Okay, so we got our back wall. We're not worried. We're not concerned that this isn't going to meet up, because when we make our lid's just going to fit right in between these walls and right over the tops of the front and back pieces. At this time, we're not going to do the front piece because most typewriters that you're going to ship, those cases, they have handles. So we're going to have to custom cut some pieces in here that make room for the handle, and we're going to pad out the handle, and I'll show you all of that. Next to the last step here, okay, we're going to pull our box back up. Remember, we're going to have the back wall here. We're not going to go ahead and put the front wall in, or we haven't just yet. Okay, so now we're at the point we can go ahead. We're going to measure the width of our wall. Okay, now what we're going to do, we're going to get that case up, push this guy out of the way, okay, and we're going to judge the depth. All right, so we'll score this guy here, move him out of the way. All right, so I've got a score mark made here for the very bottom of the wall. Great. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put that in to the box. If it breaks, it's not the end of the world, because it's going to have the pressure of the case handle on it. So again, we're not building homes here. Okay, now great, when you sit that in, what you should be able to do is push it back, all right, and that guy there should fall right underneath the case handle. Now, you're gonna take some of your scraps that you've had from cutting so far. These ones don't have to be precise. You're just gonna go ahead and make little buffers around the case handle. Of course, if you haven't got hobbit fingers like I do, then you've probably already got this portion done. Great, okay, so now you see, all right, we've built sort of a nice little cradle for that handle. Okay. So now, we go ahead and pop this bad boy in. Okay, so we're pretty much there now. What you should be looking at, all right, is that the case itself is very nicely cradled, yet there's still going to be some room around the sides to fill in, most of which comes right here at the front of the case. Now it is up to you how you want to proceed going forward. You've already got all your walls, so structurally you should be good. At this point here, you can fill in with newspaper if you prefer. If you've got some smaller bubble wrap, you can put bubble wrap in there. Or if you've got more of those pipe insulators, those plumbing insulators, you go ahead and cut them down to size, like widthwise, and then cut them in half lengthwise, and then put the flat backs against here and let that rounded shape rest against the machine. As I like to try and keep the styrofoam for the walls, it's cost effective in that you're only creating panels and you're not just chopping pieces into pieces into pieces and then trying to make them fit later on. Everything is meaningful and purposeful. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and use this to create my bumpers. Slice it down the middle. Okay, open it up. Slice it down the middle. Open it up. Fantastic. Okay. Before we get that guy down, I'm going to create 2 more. And straight slice that guy in half. Down the center. Down the center. Now I've got 2 shorter ones. And these guys are going to go on either side of the handle. Now that we've created a ridge for this to sit on, you can actually alternate back and forth. Okay. Alright, so now you got a real nice bumper there. If you've got any areas in the corners of them, I'm obviously not in this, but in the back corners here, what you can do, again, is you're going to go ahead and cut this guy in half. Make sure you got a nice flat bottom so it rests. You can actually cut enough off of there so that you can reuse those pieces at a later date. Okay, so now you got these 2 guys here. Shift the box a little bit. Get them worked in. And if you've got something that you can gently put down the corners here to push this down, I'd recommend it. Let's see. And we're down. This guy here doesn't really want to be all that helpful. That's okay. Alright, once you've made it all down, get your filler material of choice. Go ahead and get down those sides. And this is a good place to use irregular bits of bubble paper that you've saved. In this case here, we got a new grill over the summer, and I saved all of the irregularly sized bubble paper because I knew that I would need it at some point to fill in some gaps. Great. Okay. So really, what you're left here with here is minimal gaps to fill in. Okay, once you get to that top layer, you don't have to worry about packing it so tightly as you did for the bottom, because you're going to end up putting a top in. Right? Just make sure that it goes below the level of the top of the case. Alright, and then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to cut the lid. If you've made it this far, now's not the time to take half measures. Some people would just throw a little bit of crepe paper on the top or a packing peanut, give it a kiss, throw it in there, and taper all up. We're not going to do that. If you've seen how some package handlers handle packages, you'll see that just because you put this side up, or fragile, or do not toss, those are all merely suggestions. So, we're going to make sure that, in the case that they don't take our suggestion, we ourselves are covered. So, same as we've done before, you're going to go ahead and you're going to sit that back edge of the foam up against the back edge of the inside of the box, make your score mark, snap, and this is going to be the easiest panel that you cut. Alright, so in this case here, right, we're feeling like there's a little, it's not sitting as flat as we'd like, right? Okay. Now, for you do-gooders who've paid attention the whole time and remembered that I said that these would come back into play, congratulations. Okay. What we're going to do is make a little crisscross pattern here. Okay, again, you got your knife or other cutting instrument. Okay, so you cut this down to the proper size. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that fits right in between the styrofoam. We're going to put our top on, and voila, that's a whole lot sturdier, okay, than it was before. Now at this point here, you're going to go ahead and affix any of your labels, stickers, things like that. Generally what I like to do is I pick my side that's going to be the outside of the box. Okay, I bring the insides together and I go ahead and I put that, let's try that again. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pick my center folds, okay, go ahead and take my tape and I'm going to put that nice tight restraining tape for the interior flap. This is going to ensure that going forward everything else is super duper tight. Now, we've got our exteriors here. Now generally before I go ahead and throw those last parts of the tape on, this is when I will put any of my labels, stickers, and the rest. And I try and choose the sides carefully so it uses the least amount of tape. I know that I'm going to be taping this way, either way, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my this side up is on both those sides that are going to get taped anyway, so that now I don't have to tape more than what's necessary. Okay. I've got these little fragile guys. Okay, now I know that I'm going to do a retaining strap across this way as well. So I'll go ahead and put two of my little fragile guys there. I know that tape's going there and that's going to hold it down. We're not using extra tape. Okay, and I'm going to put one here on this side and one on the opposite side because I know that there's going to be a band of tape going across there. Okay, so let's start with our retaining tape. Boom. 2 and 3. Okay, we're gonna turn it. Now, normally what I do is I would put my address tape here, but for the sake of the anonymity of my patron, I'm gonna go ahead and skip that part right here. But if you can, just go ahead and imagine that there's gonna be a label for some happy person right here. Two. And 3. Great. And if you want to, again, you can tape the sides of the box here. But if you've done the rest of the job the way that you're supposed to, you shouldn't need to tape either of the sides. Oh, you're still here. Well, congratulations and thanks for braving my subpar editing and my self-congratulatory tone. For those of you still around to hear this, likely what you've done, if you've followed all the steps, is you've got a perfectly packaged vintage typewriter that's ready to brave whatever UPS, FedEx, or whatever courier, Grubhub at this point probably, is going to throw at it. Whether it's across county, cross town, or across a border. If you found this video at all helpful or at least mildly entertaining, please subscribe on your chosen platform, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, Google, TikTok, I know, stay in my lane, or YouTube. If you're not into that, feel free to head over to our website, ironfoxtypewriters.com, where you can buy anything from a custom service typewriter straight on down to one of these betties here, this nice little t-shirt, any stickers that are original artwork, and soon coming
Red,
3D
hot,
tools and
char
accessories.
and singe,
for home
lethal black.
maintenance.
Thousands of paper-thin leaves flutter, frozen in time. Preserve in the memory of the working class.